Good afternoon and welcome for WCBN Sports. For Noelle, Bencie, this is John Tandora, and we're here on a very special day, senior night here in Ann Arbor for the University of Michigan Wolverines men's lacrosse program against the number 7th ranked Maryland Terrapins. The Terrapins come to town on a bit of a losing end, loss to Virginia last week. The Wolverines, no stranger to losing themselves. 2 straight losses, not only to Virginia earlier in the season, but those 2 straight coming at the hands of Harvard and number 2 Notre Dame. Noelle, what do the Wolverines need to do to get back in the win column today?
Well, we saw last time they were at home, they had a really difficult time really keeping their stride and maintaining the momentum that they had that they keep at the beginning of the game. Starting in this game right now, we see Michael Boehm, who was a little bit absent in the last couple games, but he's going to come back today very, very strong. And you know, he is a senior, so tonight is going to be his night to really make a difference for this team as it is their first Big Ten matchup.
Exactly right. A face-off win by Justin Wheatfield to start the game leads to a shot that is saved by Maryland goaltender Luke Weirman. Luke Weirman was in the face-off dot. That's Logan McNaney in there as the Maryland switches to the offensive end. That's Terrapin midfielder Jack Horas with the ball. Bringing around at X is number 4, Eric Malver. Malver dumps it off to Ryan Siracusa. Siracusa comes across for a shot. That misses wide, and the ball will stay with the Terrapins. Eric Malver to recover. He'll come around at X. Shot fired wide. The Terrapins will once again maintain possession. The Wolverines not necessarily hitting their stride thus far with defense. Noelle giving up multiple goals, kind of in a blowout performance to Notre Dame.
No, I agree. I mean, today we see them playing very, very tight defense, a little bit more than they have in the last couple games. They tend to really push up really early and then find a way to kind of relax as the momentum dies. But we're seeing a strong start for them today as they just recovered the ball back and they're attempting to clear.
Exactly right. That's Hunter Taylor in net. He'll bring the ball out deep for the Wolverines. Sends a pass on over to number 14 in white for Michigan. That's Jack Whitney. Jack Whitney sends it up to midfield, number 17 in white for the Wolverines. Now that's Michael Boehm with the ball. He'll pass it back to Ryan Cohen. Cohen content to hold, sends it over to number 22, attacking midfielder Isaac Aronson. Aronson with the ball back to Cohen. Cohen, part of a primary attack trio for the Wolverines here that have 105 points, almost lead the nation in scoring. That's a ball sent over to number 44, a shot and a score. Justin Tiernan, that third leg of the electric attack trio for the Wolverines, make that 106 points now in 9 games as the Wolverines take an early 1-0 lead.
Yeah, that was a great goal by Tiernan. He's definitely been a playmaker for Michigan. He's a graduate student, actually amongst the best of the trios for this team. He's coming into this night as his last, technically senior night of his career, and it's exciting to see the way that they're gonna actually come off of their 2 losses and continue to keep the stride as they take the lead in this game right now.
Weirman with a face-off violation for the Terrapins. The ball will go the way of the Wolverines. Wolverines cycle it around at X. Now swung over to Michael Boehm. He loves the ball in his hands. Content to hold, brings it back up to midfield, Boehm does. Sends it over to Isaac Aronson. Aronson now holding, waiting for a change of lines. Now back to Boehm at the top of the key. Boehm darts inside. Elects to turn around and sends it back to Aronson. Aronson still holding the ball. What? A call, and it'll be back for Michigan on the defensive ride as Maryland takes over on attack. That's Maryland George Stamos, no relation to John. Sends it down over to Eric Malver. Malver with the ball up the low side. Holding for a Maryland offensive switch here as long stick midfielders come off. Malver takes the ball, brings it up to the top of the key, sends a pass over to number 47, Nick Red. Now back to Red. He'll send it down low at X. Brings it up and over for number 10 in red. Now a shot saved by Hunter Taylor That shot coming from attacker Braden Erksa. As Hunter Taylor sends it over to number 6 in white, and the Wolverines will start on their midfield attack.
Taylor has been a strong component. You know, he's kind of showed up a little bit later this season. He's kind of just getting his footing at the moment, but he's definitely played a part in their defense and in their transition over, and has been pivotal in their attempts to clear all season.
Exactly right. Short stick midfielders Carson Billig and Grant McCurry come off. Michael Boehm holding it on offense at midfield. Brings it over, accepts a screen from number 32 in white. Now sends it down over to number 2, Bo Lockwood. Bo Lockwood sends it back to Michael Boehm. Michael Boehm located now, approaching at X. Content to still hold a ball-dominant player, Michael Boehm. It leads to great results. The Wolverines' leading scorer sends it back over to number 27 in white. Now over to Ryan Cohen. Sends a pass, but elects to receive it right back. Cohen at X, accepts a screen, has a 2-man on him. Now sent over to 32 in white. A shot, a score!
Wow, what a beautiful play by Michigan. Maryland is known for their very, very tough defense, and for Michigan to come out this early, it's impressive to see kind of the switch that they've had from last year, coming from Notre Dame off a loss, from actually a 19-9 loss Notre Dame. So I think something was definitely shaken in their minds as they're coming into today's game.
The score coming from number 32, the attacker John Morgan, the junior out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. A little bit of Michigan action already on senior night here. Senior afternoon, more like it, as we get lined up in the face-off dot again. That's a win for Justin Wheatfield. That's 2 for him off 1 face-off violation as well. The Wolverines are humming. Wheatfield takes it into Michigan's offensive zone. Now sends it over to number 89.
One characteristic about this team is that they start very, very strong. Michigan will come out with a 2-3 point lead and then find a little bit of relaxation amongst their defense, to where a team like Maryland coming into Ann Arbor today is almost detrimental when it comes to continuing the stride that they've been on.
Michigan now needs to learn how to hold those leads as John Morgan on attack sends it over to the always electric Justin Brown. Brown now swings it over to Boehm. Boehm over to Bo Lockwood. Lockwood turning around for John Morgan again. Accepts a screen from Morgan. Now sends it up and over to number 27 in white. That's Aiden Mulholland, the midfielder. Mulholland still holding it now at the top of the key. Sends it down to Bo Lockwood, excuse me. Lockwood rejects the screen. Comes up over from X. Attempting a turnaround shot. That one is saved by Logan McNaney.
They played along the same book last game, John. You know, they led Notre Dame 2-1 in the first 10 minutes of the competition, and unfortunately was outscored 7-1 in the second half, and were unable to really find their way back and claw out of the hole that they made for themselves. So, you know, coming into senior night, I think tonight was a very, very difficult night to choose senior night. I mean, Maryland is one of the top programs in the country, you know, coming from the East Coast. So this game is definitely exciting, and we're excited to cover it.
Exactly right. Now a transition violation by the Terrapins leads to an attack for the Wolverines. Wolverines working out of their offensive zone. That's number 19 in white, Christian Ronda. Attempts to pass through the middle. That one's intercepted by a cavalcade of Terrapins. Now there's a scramble for the ball, but Maryland will recover. Maryland sends it over to long stick defenseman. Now the Terrapins will start on attack. That's Eric Maliver with the ball. Hill sends it over to the top of the key to Eric Spanos. With Jack Koras coming on alongside Ryan Siracusa for the Terrapins. Siracusa accepts a screen, sends it over to a falling Brendan Erksa, but he'll recover and send it over to Eric Spanos. Spanos with the ball now. He'll dart inside. Now we'll hold the ball at X after a rejected shot attempt. Spanos with a turnaround, a nice move, a shot and a save by Hunter Taylor. Taylor will hold the ball, looking for some long stick defensemen to aid him.
Taylor usually takes the brunt of these games. Usually he's in the net really trying to find and protect Michigan's side. But I think today they're doing a wonderful job in really helping him out and not giving him the entire brunt of protecting their basket or their net. Excuse me.
Exactly right. Case Van Wees with a turnover. Noelle, what does Michigan have to do to kind of take some of that pressure off of Hunter Taylor early on?
Well, I think they just have to stick to the fundamentals that they have. This is a very strong team. They won Big Ten last year, and they don't have Josh Zawada, who is the leading scorer for this program last year. So it's definitely going to have to keep their understanding and their knowledge that they know what they're doing and they can trust each other. And I think that in the past they've had a little bit of difficulty kind of playing together. It's usually like a one-man team, like we see Michael Cohen doing when he needs to. We see, Michael Boehm doing kind of segregated, and then we see Ryan Cohen taking the lead for a lot of things. But like today, we saw Taylor go in and really make a pivotal play for this team as well. And like today, for instance, and especially in their game against Harvard at home, they had we didn't really see much of Michael Boehm. Michael Boehm was kind of an assist player, and I think they're kind of stretching out between their guys, which is, I think, making the difference when it comes to these wins.
We'll have to see if the Wolverines can execute on that offensive communication. Right now it's working thus far. 2-0 for a Michigan lead as the Maryland Terrapins take a timeout early on here. What did you see there in that offensive end that allowed Michigan to kind of take control of this game early on and cement themselves with this 2-goal lead, albeit early?
Well, I think right now what we're seeing is they're not scrambled. They're coming into this game really controlled and composed, which normally like we would see them go in and they would be a little bit spastic in the beginning. But one thing that we see for this game especially is that they're coming in, they are running the plays that they're supposed to, they're spreading out, and they're really taking control of the field more than we have seen in the last couple games. So I think that it's going to make a difference. Hopefully, the senior night means a lot to these guys. And it means a lot to the people in the stadium. Like this stadium is packed. And especially I want to acknowledge that this team is one that is on the level of like Johns Hopkins. The East Coast comes in and they're an extremely strong program. Lacrosse kind of originated in that area. It's almost on the level of, I would say, basketball for that side of the country. So with Michigan, relatively newer program, I would say that their fundamentals and keeping up the stride that they have early is going to be very, very important. And I think we're seeing that. We're already about 10 minutes in, and they're not letting up. They're spreading out. They're using the talents of their team, and it's going to make a difference. I think the communication that they all have.
Of course, Michigan only crossing the decade mark for its Division I lacrosse program in 2021, encroaching on 15 years now, although that's still a ways away. This senior night is especially meaningful for the Wolverines, being a class of this program that has really taken it from cellar dwellers within the Big Ten and within Division I college lacrosse in general to a much more efficient and elite team. Big Ten champions, of course, last year against the Maryland Terrapins in a 14-5 exciting victory here. But for now, the Terrapins control the ball in a 2-0 lead for the University of Michigan. That's number 10, Braden Erksa with the ball. Briefly double-teamed. He'll send it over to number 4, Eric Maliever. Maliever will take the ball at X, will reject the screen, content to hold it himself. Looking for any wiggle room here. The Michigan defense has certainly tightened early on. As a pass will be fired just wide as Hunter Taylor scrambles out of the net to recover it, and it'll be Michigan's ball.
You mentioned that Michigan's program has only been around for 15 years. If you look at the books, Maryland has been around since 1895. They've had a lacrosse program. So just the sheer history that this team has. They started as a lacrosse program, just as club, but it's still been around and it's still been prominent in their university. So it's a little bit of a dynamic change, coming into the Midwest and only having such a young program, but still having last year's Big Ten title, the first time in program history, was something that these guys are definitely carrying on their shoulders in today's game and are continue to develop as the season progresses.
And a misfired pass in the offensive zone by Ryan Cohen, intended for Bo Lockwood, goes just wide, and it'll be Terrapins' ball. Of course, lacrosse in Maryland kind of synonymous at this point. It's been so for a while, but of course, newcomers such as the University of Michigan, some other programs, Michigan State always in the conversation to have a team upgraded from the club level. Lacrosse has most definitely grown in the Midwest. Programs such as Culver Academy in Indiana, known for their lacrosse prowess.
Yeah, I think lacrosse is definitely an upcoming sport all over the country. You know, it's exciting. I like to say it has kind of a play of hockey and soccer all together. You know, it has the speed of hockey, but then the kind of the layout and the rules of soccer. So it's a fun mix, and it's a nice way to continue, you know, exciting sports into the spring seasons.
I completely agree. Also a sport that's becoming more accessible as of late. Always known that lacrosse has been a little bit more on the expensive side, but as the sport continues to grow, maybe a little bit of economies of scale have allowed it to become more accessible to those not necessarily in powerhouse states like Connecticut, Maryland, of the sort. As the Terrapins here on offense now, a shots fired, saved, kick save, that is, by Hunter Taylor. No one budging right now on defense. A pair of turnovers in the midfield for the Wolverines and the Terrapins alike. Nevertheless, it's still Michigan ball.
You know, John, they're ranked 20 right now. Do you think that that's a valid ranking for them, or do you think that they're over or under ranked at the moment?
I think it's a fair ranking. You're looking at a team that did have some turnover last year. The loss of Josh Zawada for the Wolverines to the transfer portal certainly hurt. But this is a team still with good bones. Hunter Taylor, only a sophomore. Ryan Cohen, Michael Boehm, the excellent attackman, now upperclassman after last year. They certainly have the pieces to go on a run. It's just about being able to put it together, and that's something that young programs need to learn to work with. As Isaac Aronson will take the ball around, accepts a screen from Bo Lockwood. Now sends it over to Ryan Cohen. Ryan Cohen down to Lockwood. Lockwood with a turn. Looking for a pass down the alley, but can't find any. Now into the hands of Michael Boehm. Boehm with the ball. He'll accept a screen for number 32, John Morgan. Boehm content to hold. Looking for a spin move to get onto his dominant side. He'll send the ball over to Ryan Cohen. Cohen with an open shot. He'll rip it off the bounce, but a save nonetheless by Logan McNaney. And the Terrapins will get on the push as the Wolverines look to get back into their defensive ride. Noelle, a low-scoring matchup, 2 minutes to go here in the first quarter. Not necessarily something we've seen out of the Wolverines thus far throughout the season. Does it take a defensive effort for Maryland to be toppled, or should the Wolverines look to win in a shootout?
Well, I think honestly, with the kind of team that they're facing today, you know, Maryland, I think slow and steady is going to be the way that they run this, because usually when they come in hot. Like you said, they come in very, very high scoring. I don't think that, I mean, with the exception of Notre Dame, they haven't really scored less than double digits this whole season. So coming into this game, I think, you know, stretching out the goals and keeping the stride that they've been having thus far, with first quarter pretty much coming to an end. That's I think my take is they're going to have to stretch out their time and really not get gassed out right in the beginning. So a shootout would be wonderful, but, you know, for the fans, for everybody watching. But in terms of this team, I think that it's going to be better to stretch everything out. And during our analysis, we had a penalty on the play in just that moment.
Flag on Grant McCurry. Looked like it would have been a slashing or potentially a head contact with just about a minute to go here in this first quarter. Not something the Wolverines want to do. Almost held the Terrapins scoreless throughout this first quarter. Of course, Maryland dangerous on these man-up opportunities. Often these games can come down to special teams when you have two excellent teams playing. Of course, 20th ranked Michigan, number 8 ranked Terrapins. Terrapins finding success when they've played a clean game. In their last 2 wins, they've committed only 1 total penalty. In their last 2 losses, they've averaged 4 each. Can never be giving other teams the free opportunity to score, as there it is right there. 1 pass, 1 shot, 1 score. That was number 22 in red for the Terrapins, finding the back of the net, and just like that, Noelle, it's 2-1. Michigan still with a lead, but cut in half right there.
Yeah, we're the 2-1 is always kind of where they get a little bit shaky. You know, they come in very, very hot. They come in scoring 2-3 right out of the first face-off. But I think and really hope that it's not going to be another back and forth like it was with Notre Dame. We have a minute left. You know, they're fighting right now for possession, but once this period is over, they'll take a second and they'll reassess, and they'll come back just as strong as they did in the first period.
That was face-off win recovered by Wolverine Andrew Stanzel. The goal scored by Jack Koras, number 22. It just goes to show how quickly the Wolverines can succeed when given the opportunity, as Hunter Taylor, finding himself in a little bit of a battle here out of the net at the midfield, causes a turnover. The Wolverines now scrambling for the ball in their own offensive zone. A couple of slashes, and finally recovered by number 89 in white for the Wolverines, and Michigan will have one final opportunity. That's Bo Lockwood with the ball in the offensive zone, holding it, and Michigan will take a timeout with 14 and a half seconds to go in this first quarter. A 2-1 lead for the University of Michigan over the Maryland Terrapins. Michigan right now not necessarily able to find its offensive footing, playing strong defense early on, limiting Maryland to 1 goal in this first quarter, something Maryland fans definitely not necessarily used to. They've been in double-digit scoring all the time this season, outside of one contest against the ever-staunch Notre Dame defense. Even then, scoring 9 goals, something Michigan is also familiar with.
Yeah, you mentioned before how they lost one of their top leading scorer in program history, Josh Zawada, who had 119 career goals for the program, to Duke. Actually, he went over there to get his Master's of Management, play one more year of eligibility for the team down south. So it's definitely taken a little bit of toll on this team. I think that he really carried the program in a way that we hadn't really seen since Ian King in 2017. But I think that the team is going to step up. But John, who do you think has really taken the lead in this season to fill the shoes of one of the most pivotal players for this team?
That's a great question, Noelle. And, I think the easy answer would be to say Michael Boehm. Everyone looks to him, number 5, with the ball in his hands at all times. But I'll give you an alternate answer, and I'll say Ryan Cohen. This is a guy who maybe hasn't lived in the spotlight for his career. Nevertheless, 52 shots, 33 points on the season for the Wolverines. He's very much a contributor. His name might not jump off the page. He might not be on the cover of USA Lacrosse like some on this Wolverines program have been, but that doesn't mean he's not there putting in the work day in and day out. As coming out of the timeout here, we'll see Michigan attempt with 14 and a half seconds left to net one final goal before we take a first quarter break. The ball will start in the hands of midfielder Christian Ronda, number 19 in white. He'll take the ball up to the top of the key, sends it over to Ryan Cohen, the man himself. He'll send one down just wide of a pass. It'll count as a turnover. So the drawn-up play by Kevin Connery will not execute, and with 3.5 seconds, the Terrapins will launch a pass up and out of play, and that'll take us out of the first quarter and into the second. The University of Michigan still with a slim 2-1 lead over the Terrapins. A 2-minute break coming up. Shots are 7 for Maryland, 6 for Michigan. 3 saves by Hunter Taylor, 4 saves by Terrapin Logan McNaney.
Yeah, like you mentioned before, I think Kevin Connery has really taken this team and recognized where the faults are, where the gaps were with relying on just Josh Zawada. And like last season, we would see Josh Zawada putting up 2, 3, 4 goals a game, but and like really not see much of the talent from the other players. This team is very, very talented, but we can't really put all the effort onto Josh Zawada for last year's Big Ten title, because we did have Ryan Cohen and we did have Michael Boehm right behind him. But I think this year it's nice to see kind of the stretch of diverse talent that this team has, and the recognition that they're getting because of that title and because of the strength that they carry as a team. And it's something that we haven't seen really much of when Josh Zawada was part of this program.
Exactly right. I think something that has really stuck out to me has been the depth scoring throughout this lineup. We've seen guys like Aiden Mulholland, Isaac Aronson each chipping in 11 points, 16 for Christian Ronda, 24 again for Bo Lockwood, number 2 for the Wolverines. This is a team that has a little bit more depth. It's learning that as your program builds, of course, you'll get the superstars attracted to your school, guys like Michael Boehm, Josh Zawada, but Two, you get those depth pieces. You get guys who want to stay for all 4 years and are content to not necessarily start right out of the gate. Nevertheless, when their time's called and when their bell is rung, they're ready to come and contribute. That's something that I've loved out of this program that Kevin Connery has built up from the ground up. Former defensive coordinator for the Maryland Terrapins. We'd be remiss not to mention that. Even though he does pride himself on a strong defensive scheme, he has guys who can score in bunches.
No, I agree. I mean, I think it's also important to mention that he is actually he went to Johns Hopkins University. You know, he's from that area. He knows the strength of really the talent that is in that part of the country, and he has been one of the key players in kind of shifting that momentum to the Midwest and for this program. You know, we're going to see them take on Johns Hopkins next week. He's going to go back to his home field and kind of show up to their field and almost with pride, you know, because last time they played, they didn't have the Big Ten title. So, but now they're coming in and they're going to kind of show the strength that they have and that they've built with pride. I think, regardless of the streak that they've been on, they're only 5-3 at the moment, but it's gonna be exciting to see that game as well.
A dot win by Jackie Weller, and this second quarter is underway. That's number 14 in white for the University of Michigan with the ball in his hands, defenseman Jack Whitney. He'll send a pass over to John Morgan. John Morgan will dash down the alley, looks for a shot, but instead passes it over to number 2, Bo Lockwood. He'll take it out of X, accepts a screen from Morgan, and he'll rip a shot high and wide, but the ball will stay with the Wolverines. Of course, Michigan traveling to Johns Hopkins, the old stomping grounds of Kevin Connery, as John Morgan sends a pass over to number 27 in white midfielder Aiden Mulholland. Mulholland looks for a shot, elects not to take it, asking for a screen from Ryan Cohen. Cohen will be content to just accept a pass, and they'll work out of the backfield here.
Michigan is doing a lot of patience at the moment. You know, they're not rushing. They're getting solid passes between these guys in order to really make a play happen.
And that's exactly what you need, as darting from behind X, Michael Payne, rips a shot top right corner and in. Exactly right. That patience has been something that's defined some of Michigan's games lately, Noelle. How is it so difficult to keep your patience against a team like Maryland, and what does Michigan need to do to keep up this scoring presence?
Well, I think, you know, when we have teams that come in like the classic rival, for example, we have Ohio State that isn't really one of the top programs in the country, but they are the essence of rivalry for our university. When you have teams like that, and almost Maryland for this program to that caliber of, you know, the excellence that Maryland pursues, is you have to keep really the pressure of that game is what's laying on these guys' shoulders today. You know, they know that this game means a lot and that their reputation and that their program leads with these kinds of wins. So I think it's in the hands of Kevin Connery at the moment. You know, he's really the one that controls what the momentum of the game is like, and when he is composed, then the rest of the guys are composed, and that is something that is going to have to continue throughout this game to keep their cool and recognizing the standard that they need to be set at for this game.
And a shot is netted by Eric Spanos. A face-off win by number 52 Luke Weirman led to an offensive possession by the Maryland Terrapins. Maryland exercising some of that same composure you were just mentioning, Noelle. 3-2 lead for the University of Michigan now. Kevin Connery, having a word with the referees. He wasn't pleased with what he saw. Looked like a clean goal to me. Nevertheless, Eric Spanos will check off another box in his box score, so to speak, and we'll have another face-off opportunity.
I mean, Maryland is definitely a team that is recognized. You know, they are not one to be messed with, and you know, I expected nothing less from Maryland to come in and put a couple points on the board, but having Michigan in the lead is definitely something that will keep their composure in this game. So
Michigan a chance to display that composure yet again. A face-off win by Justin Wheatfield. The ball falls into the hands of Michael Boehm. He'll look for a shot, looking for a quick equalizer. Nevertheless, he'll turn back and exercise a little bit of caution here as the Wolverines look to get set up on offense. Michael Boehm, a little bit of a juke move, looking for that left-handed shot. Instead, he'll send a pass over to Bo Lockwood. Lockwood back to Boehm. Now on the far side of the field, Boehm holds the ball.
Maryland playing a zone defense at the moment. I think that's something that's important to recognize.
Zone defense hoping to stymie the passes. Michigan always looking for those cross-crease passes. As Isaac Aronson will have the ball. Excuse me, that's Aiden Mulholland, the midfielder, not Isaac Aronson. As a ball down the alley, that zone defense collapses right there, just as you say it, Noelle. A scramble in front of the net. As Logan McNeely will end up with the ball in his hands, he'll send one up over to his midfielder, short stick midfielder, that is, Nick Red. Nick Red will take the ball up and across the midfield line, but not before passing it to number 24, Colin Sharkey. Sharkey now to Braden Urksa. He'll hold as the Terrapins get out a change. That's Owen Murphy receiving the ball, now sends it over to Jack Brennan coming in off the bench, the short stick midfielder. Brennan will send it over to Alec Malier, the attackman. He'll accept a screen from Brennan. Holds the ball, sends it back up over to the top of the key to Jack Brennan again. Now back down to Braden Urksa. Urksa sending it over to Daniel Kelly. Kelly back to Urksa. Urksa holds. Now a couple of flip passes back into the hands of number 55 in red. Now back at the top of the key. Now a cross-crease bounce pass that falls for a shot and a scramble for it on the near side. Recovered by number 45 in red and sent back over to 41 for the Terrapins. Maryland on the hunt now, only down 1 goal with 10:36 left here in the second quarter.
Yeah, that was number 9, actually, Cathal Roberts, who leads Big Ten with and number 18 nationally for caused turnovers, and that's exactly what he did. He played to his strength, and it's impressive to see this standard.
A turn shot by Alec Maliver scores, and Maryland has netted this game. Of course, an excellent turnover caused by Michigan, but not able to recover and capitalize on the play, and that one ends up in the back of the net for Maryland. The Terrapins always so dangerous on offense here, and they prove just that. A netted score, the Michigan Wolverines will have to look to recover and recover fast.
If you look at the scoring of this game, John, it's very, very low. You know, when Michigan played up against Harvard back at home, both teams were putting up 30, 40 shots, you know, and the percentages were very, very low considering the score of that game. And right now we have Michigan with only 8 shots and Harvard with 11, and we're about a third of the way through the second period.
And we'll have a face-off penalty off of what looked to be an illegal hit. Justin Wheatfield trying to recover the ball. Nevertheless, the Terrapins will stick with it. That pass will be to Eric Spanos for the Terrapins. Now back to Spanos at the top of the key. He'll hold the ball as Maryland looks for a change. That'll be number 44 in red coming on. Some short stick offensive midfielders here. 44 in red, of course, for the Terrapins. Sends it back over to number 10, Braden Urksa. Urksa holding the ball, the dangerous attackman for the Terrapins. Still holds, looked to dart inside, stopped there by Bo Peterson. Now a spin move, a shot low, saved by Hunter Taylor, but the ball bounces back up right into the hands of Urksa. Urksa, another shot, and that one finds the back of the net. A little bit of a bouncing shot, and just like that, Michigan finds its first deficit of the night. 9:21 left in this second period, as Maryland has 4 and Michigan has 3.
I'm not worried about this team. You know, I think, yes, it seems a little bit on trend for them to come onto the field and come out very, very strong, very, very composed at the beginning, and then kind of lose their stride. But they've been holding up with. I kind of expected this to be a little bit more of a tussle between Maryland and Michigan. You know, I expected it to be a little bit more of a scrappy game, but each of their teams seem very, very in line with what they're supposed to do. And regardless of the difference in ranking, Michigan 19 and Maryland 7, it's almost like these teams are identical, the way that they're playing. And there's not one team that is kind of letting loose. They're both playing to their strengths, and it's an exciting game to watch. I mean, Maryland is definitely a contender that brings a lot of people to the stadium and really fills it.
It was always going to be a blow-for-blow battle, Noelle. I don't think anyone else would have countered you on that. An offensive violation here puts the ball back into the hands of the Wolverines as they look to get into their midfield switch. Now Michael Boehm at the top of the key. He'll send the ball over to Isaac Aronson. Aronson will hold as Michigan looks to transition into its more attack-minded unit. That's number 19 in white, Christian Ronda, with the ball in his hands. Ronda and Aronson playing a little bit of patty cake back and forth. No one wants to hold the ball. Michigan looks for an equalizer here, sends the ball over to Ryan Cohen. Cohen will bring it to the top of the key. He'll accept a screen from Isaac Aronson. Cohen now dashes inside, looks for that left-handed shot, winds up a bouncer, but a save by Logan McNaney. A great save by McNaney off the bounce. And now Maryland will have an opportunity to respond, but not before a skipped pass goes just out of play. Hunter Taylor will recover and look to get Michigan back into this game.
One thing that I have noticed between Michigan and Maryland is Maryland tends to throw sloppy passes. And we've seen 2 or 3 drop passes that could have been potential goals for these teams. Like Maryland just dropped a pass on a fast break when half of Michigan's team was still trying to get back to their side. So I think Michigan should play to that and use men like Cathal Roberts in their defense to really get those turnovers and play to that weakness.
Michael Boehm sets a scream at X. Fakes a pass to John Morgan. Those physical battles, Noelle, always a characteristic of Big Ten lacrosse. You know, it's kind of a bit of a stereotype. Big Ten football, Big Ten basketball, men's and women's, and now Big Ten lacrosse, men's and women's all the same. Always known for its physicality. As Bo Lockwood will keep the ball, sends a bouncing shot wide. That one will be recovered by Michigan. Ryan Cohen out there to retrieve. As with just over 7 minutes to go here, it's a Maryland 4, Michigan 3 lead for the Terrapins. Ryan Cohen bringing the ball back into play. Accepts a screen at X from John Morgan. Now sends a pass that just bounces off the stick of Michael Boehm. He would have had an open shot. Boehm picks up his own rebound. And now attempts to make a move. A shot high, saved by Logan McNaney. Not much danger there. The Wolverines will get back into their ride, attempting to play a little bit of defense as the ball falls into the hands of offensive attackman Eric Maliver. Maliver now send it over. The Terrapins switching into a little more of their depth play here as we reach a grueling part of the game. Of course, Michigan held it close last week against Notre Dame in the first and fourth quarters, but really lost their leads in the second and third, kind of ran out of gas and allowed the Fighting Irish to build their substantial lead.
And I hate to say it, but it's starting to look a little bit like that game from last week.
And right on time, a shot and a score. Owen Murphy, the midfielder, makes it 5-3 Maryland. Noelle doing a little bit of, not announcers jinxing, but announcers predicting. You've been 3 for 3 on these moments.
Yeah. We just saw, I'm going to go back to that last play that we just saw with Michigan on offense. The difference between the first 2 goals that they scored and the last 2-3 shots that they just took was the lack of, I keep using this word, but the lack of composure that they had. They were scrambling. They were very hectic. They were spastic. They were taking shots that were not open. And that's the characteristic that kind of makes that switch from, taking the lead and coming in hot to losing the momentum that they have and trailing behind the team that comes in and keeps that composure that they've had consistently throughout the game.
A face-off win by Luke Weirman leads to a spin move and an attempted shot, but not before a foul is called. Kevin Connery livid on the sideline. Noelle, you're exactly right. I was seeing those exact same things. As we've talked about earlier, there's benefits to having a Michael Boehm on your team. Don't get it wrong. This is an electric guy who can score in bursts at any moment, but we see maybe not necessarily timed well shot by Boehm. It goes up high, an easy save by Logan McNaney, the goaltender for the Terrapins, and suddenly McNaney's able to start a breakout attempt that the Terrapins capitalize on, and now it's 5-3. It's something that you've so eloquently mentioned we're getting to see play out right here at every moment when Michigan neglects to keep its composure, neglects to use the patience we know it can display, it's setting up the Terrapins and previous teams in previous weeks with golden opportunities to score. Of course, now a timeout has been called off the penalty, as we just mentioned. Kevin Connery livid at what seemed to be a little bit of a head contact call there. Nevertheless, the Terrapins will have the ball on offense as Connery's group looks to rejigger themselves, so to speak, I guess. What started as an early lead for Michigan, 2-0, kind of blanking the Terrapins throughout the first quarter of this game, has quickly devolved into a 2-goal deficit of their own.
You can almost see the frustration. Like they don't really wear the frustration well for this team. They wear it to the point where Maryland can kind of use it against them. You know, Maryland knows that they're frustrated at the moment, so they're using that to their advantage to continue to joggle these guys, because there's a lot riding on this game. You know, it's the first Big Ten matchup of the season for both teams, actually, and Michigan needs to keep their status and keep their record, and a win like this, you know, coming off of 2 losses, is almost so important for this program, because today, just before this game, they put up their Big Ten flag, their Big Ten championship flag. You know, there's only one number up there, and I'm sure that every single guy on the sideline is really hoping to put 24 on that, right next to 23 on that flag today. So Maryland is going to probably continue to use the frustration that Michigan continues to develop as, you know, shots aren't going in, as passes are dropped, as men leave their post. So I think Maryland's a strong team, and they're going to read exactly what you give them.
Eric Maliver sends one over to Braden Erksa, who brought the ball in earlier on this offensive attack. A shot fired wide leads to control by the Wolverines. You know, Noelle, we've talked about this all day. We kind of start to sound like broken records, but it is an excellent Maryland program. Of course, the Big Ten championship, not necessarily a title for the longest time, as Michigan looks to set up on offense here. Nevertheless, though, Maryland still quadruples now Michigan in Big Ten championships with 4 of their own over the course of this younger lacrosse Big Ten, so to speak. Of course, teams such as Johns Hopkins joining the Big Ten to form this lacrosse conference. Previously, Johns Hopkins only having one Division I team in men's and women's lacrosse, normally a Division III school. As passes will be fired right back in between Isaac Aronson and his compatriot in white, number 19. That's Christian Ronda. Now back up to Ryan Cohen at the top of the key. He'll look to make a move. Accepts a screen from Isaac Aronson. Looks for the open man down the lane. Now Cohen bringing it around X, doing it himself. Sends it back over to Christian Ronda again. Ronda holding the ball, but not necessarily logging many points thus far. Now a pass, a shot, and a score. A nifty little through ball by Michael Boehm onto the hands of Ryan Cohen, and now it's 5-4 Michigan. Still a deficit, but definitely the momentum swing the Wolverines were looking for.
John, I want to point out exactly what I've been saying this entire time. What was something that they did differently here that they didn't do in the last 5 or 6 shots that they took?
A little bit of patience, I'd have to guess, Noelle.
Yeah, that's you hit it right on the nail. You hit it right on the nail.
Luke Weirman will step back into the dot for the Terrapins, looking for a win. Michigan unable to capitalize. Weirman will send it back over to his defenseman. As Maryland looking to hold the ball, just over 4 minutes left here in this first half. As the Terrapins look to get into a little bit more of a defensive setup. That's Logan McNaney coming out of his own net to instigate this offense. Sends it over to number 13, midfielder Zach Whittier. Will bring the ball behind X. And looks for a pass. The Terrapins content to change again while Whittier holds the ball. 48 seconds left on this shot clock. Still plenty of time to work with here on offense. Number 37, Daniel Maltz will receive a pass and send it over to Braden Erksa. Erksa now with a wide open left lane, chooses not to use it. Attempts to dart to the middle. Now brings it back around X. Erksa with the ball on a stick. Sends it over to number 55 in red, but that one will fall just out of play as we'll have a battle at midfield between Mikey Boehm and a Terrapin. As a loose ball in transition here is scooped up niftily and sent back to Michigan's defense. That's number 3, Rowan Clay, long stick defenseman for the Wolverines, receiving that ball. Now over to Jack Whitney. Whitney will send it over to Isaac Aronson. Now at midfield, Aronson will hold.
Yeah, we saw that scoop up by the king of turnovers himself, Cathal Roberts. So nice to see a little bit of action from him right on the sideline.
Certainly action that's appreciated by Kevin Connery, as this will be Christian Ronda using a screen from Michael Boehm. Now sends it back to Boehm. Boehm over to the top of what would be your screen here, Ryan Cohen. Of course, on the radio, no screen, sadly. But nevertheless, Cohen will keep the ball at the top of the key, sends it back down to the near side to Christian Ronda. Ronda over to Bo Lockwood at X. Lockwood up to number 22, Isaac Aronson, the midfielder. Aronson looking for a shot, darting down the middle of the lane, rips one. That one will be fired just wide, and a foot race will be won by the Terrapins as they look to set up into their transition offense.
We see a lot of bounce passing from, or not bounce passing, excuse me. We see a lot of attempted bounce goals into from Michigan on the side. So I wonder if they're just not being able to really find an open, clear shot, or if they're kind of settling for those bounces.
It definitely speaks to that zone defense you were talking about earlier, Noelle. Those open shooting lanes, open passing lanes, what often seems like such golden opportunities, not necessarily so against a team like the Terrapins, as a missed shot will be intercepted a little bit by the body, courtesy of number 17. That's Justin Ennis of the Wolverines. He'll scoop up the loose ball. Now we'll send it over to number 3 in white, Clay Rowan again, as the long stick defenseman will give an opportunity for the Wolverines. Now a shot fired top right and a score.
That was a beautiful play and a beautiful call of judgment from, I want to say, from the defense on that team, actually. Like, we see a defenseman come over. We see how he kind of fits the mold of keeping the stride of this team. You know, he played to his judgment. He has the lacrosse IQ that you're looking for this team. And I think that's kind of speaks volumes for Michigan lacrosse at the moment. You know, some teams would kind of scramble with a defenseman on offense, but the versatility that that Kevin Connery has brought to this program is impressive. You know, because right now Michigan is tied with Maryland when they were just down beginning of this quarter by 2.
Exactly right. That shot from Justin Tiernan off the pass from midfielder Bo Pedersen. Now a little bit of scramble at the face-off dot here. Nevertheless, the Terrapins will keep the ball in their possession. That's Eric Maliver at X. The attackman with the ball sends it over to Braden Urksa. Urksa here with the shot clock at 63, game clock at 49 here in this first half. It's a level game, Michigan 5, Maryland 5. Of course, the two teams looking for maybe any potential 1 or 2 goal edge here with the clock winding down. Braden Urksa will accept a double screen, look for a shot, will neglect to take it. Now a pass, a shot, and a score. Urksa to Jack Koras. A little bit of attackman and midfielder action here. A quick response by Maryland. They're up 6-5.
And we see Maryland coming back and almost answering the goal that Michigan just put up. You know, the goal that took so much effort for Michigan to get in. Maryland just comes back over and puts one right in the net. And I think that kind of speaks to the way Michigan plays a little bit. They put all their energy into getting that one goal, and rather than riding the high and continuing on that train, they become boasted, and then they allow for that to happen, and for once again be put in the deficit.
Justin Whitfield scoops up an offensive opportunity, and with 20.9 seconds to go, Kevin Connery will take a timeout. The Wolverines potentially not able to exercise the same level of patience we've been preaching thus far. Nevertheless, with a timeout and possession, plenty of time to find an evening goal here. The Wolverines down 1, 6-5 to the Maryland Terrapins here on senior night, as the Wolverines will take this timeout as an opportunity to draw something up in offensive play. Noelle, if you're here in the huddle for the Wolverines, are you looking for maybe a little bit of one-man action by Michael Boehm? Are you looking for a cross-crease pass? What do you think, with kind of limited time, would be the best angle for the Wolverines?
Well, I honestly if I were in the huddle at the moment, I was Kevin Connery, I would be telling them to. It kind of goes twofold, you know. You wonder if he's telling his guys to really push and get that last goal to continue into this game tied going into halftime, or you you kind of ride out being one behind and then you regroup and you settle into the next quarter. And um, it's frustrating as a coach. You know, you don't know how Maryland is going to come out and react. So I think at the moment, Kevin Connery is I think he's going to try to get one more in. I think that's just the way that he runs this team. But personally, coming from somebody who's watching this game and who has seen the way that this team plays, you know, from the outside, running into the second quarter or second half, I think one behind would be a little bit more beneficial for this team. You know, they would come out with a little bit more momentum and wouldn't be like, okay, we're good. We're at 6-6. We can relax a little bit, you know. And I going into the second half would be a little bit better if they were one behind.
6-6, of course, preferable. The nightmarish scenario would be a quick turnover leading to a score, and Michigan being down 7-5. The clock now ticking. Ryan Cohen will take it over to the corner, and we'll have to see what, if at all, Kevin Connery has drawn up. He'll reject a screen from John Morgan. Now a pass will be sent over down at X to 27. A shot fired and saved by the Wolverines as the clock will expire. That was an awesome opportunity there for Michigan, but Aiden Mulholland, the midfielder, not able to convert after a kick saved by Logan McNaney. And we'll go into this second half with your Wolverines down 6-5 to the Maryland Terrapins here in Ann Arbor on senior night.
We've seen a little bit of both characteristics from Michigan today. We've seen them scramble. We've seen them really keep their cool. We've seen Maryland on the ladder doing the same exact thing. We've seen them kind of scramble a little bit, drop passes, really cause a couple turnovers for this team. But then again, come back and answer Michigan right away. You know, the stats on this game are almost identical. Like if there's like one or two that are different, you know, they have the same shots. Both the Michigan has 16 shots on the board. Maryland has 15 saves from the goalies. Maryland has 7. Michigan has 5 turnovers, both tied at 9. So you just see that the score is very evident of the way that this game has been playing out. And I think we're going to continue to see that, but it's just a matter of going into the second half, who is able to really capitalize and push and give that extra necessary effort that's needed to really have hold grasp of this win for the first Big Ten matchup of the season.
I completely agree, Noelle. It's going to be a battle of wits, that's for sure. Maryland excellent at kind of outlasting opponents. 3 overtime wins this season, something you don't always see. Their most recent win actually coming in overtime against the Brown Lacrosse team. Brown, to their credit, 0-5 at that time, so not necessarily a team you'd want to see take you into overtime. Nevertheless, Maryland, the Terrapins, difficult team to take out, difficult team to put away, always so dangerous. National champions 2 years ago.
But you see that, I mean, with Brown being at the time no wins, it almost tells a little bit about Maryland. You know, if that team was able to hold on, then you have a team like Michigan that is at the caliber that is almost double of Brown. You would expect that Michigan is able to really kind of push through and be at the level that could give Maryland a very, very tough competition.
That's very apt, Noelle, and I think it also speaks to something that you mentioned earlier in your previous statement about how we've kind of seen a tale of 2 quarters for both of these teams. The first quarter, a 2-0 Michigan lead for most of the entire period. That was Michigan maybe playing at its best. Offensive opportunities, not necessarily the level of capitalizing you'd want to see, but shutting out Maryland. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, Maryland takes the lead 6-5 here at halftime. That second quarter being kind of a little bit of a mess, so to speak. Michigan not finding its footing, Maryland responding at every turn. And so we'll have to see what team comes out in the second half. And that's a comment on both teams. Is it Michigan's composed, collected, strong defense, opportunistic offense? Is it the erratic Maryland scoring? Is it a Maryland team that lets itself battle over a win against top 10 ranked Syracuse in overtime? Or is it the Maryland team that gets taken into overtime by the Brown Bears just about 2 to 3 weeks ago? It's something that is hard to predict, but will impact the game nevertheless.
It's hard to predict, but we're excited to see what plays out in this second half of today's competition. We go right into second quarter with Michigan 5, Maryland 6. Very, very tough competition. A lot of back and forth from both teams, but we'll be back with you guys in just a moment for the start of the second half. We appreciate you listening, and we'll see you in a bit.
Hello and welcome back in for WCBN Sports. This is John Tandora and Noelle Bencie. Just over 5 seconds before we're set to not tip off. I'm a little too used to basketball, but face off here. Michigan and Maryland. Your University of Michigan down 6-5 to the Maryland Terrapins here in Ann Arbor on senior night and the unveiling of Michigan's first Big Ten men's lacrosse championship. Noelle, how are you feeling about this second half, and what does Michigan need to do to not only get the lead, but firmly put themselves in the driver's seat?
You know, we had a little bit of conversation, John, before we came back on air, and I think one of the biggest things that stuck out was how they keep trying to drive and find sloppy shots in the middle, which has caused the amount of shots that they've taken to almost double in the last, I want to say, in the last period. So coming into this game, it's gonna be pivotal that they continue to widen out their offense and slow down and find the moments that are warranted for a shot and not just a shot that'll get them tied to Maryland at the moment, because like we said, they're going into the start of the second half just trailing by 1, which could cause either a shift in effort and another push from Michigan, or it could cause them to break down and become sloppy.
Exactly right. We'll see how it materializes here. Justin Wheatfield gets out-muscled and loses the offensive draw to Luke Weirman. Weirman takes the ball up, a little bit of a slip, and now a recovery by the Wolverines. Weirman fumbling the ball. The Fogo attempting a little bit of an offensive participation here. Hunter Taylor with the ball. He'll attempt to start this Michigan transition offense. The pass now over to number 14 in white for Michigan. Back to Hunter Taylor. The Wolverines looking to get a form of a breakout here. Of course, Maryland's defensive ride always so strong. Ball taken in here by 14 in white. Sent over now into the offensive zone here.
Yeah, we saw Hunter Taylor coming in at midfield. It's always a little bit of a shock when the goalie's outside of their range. You know, little freaks the guys out, freaks us out.
Exactly, a little bit of an eyebrow raiser as Ryan Cohen sends a pass over to Michael Boehm. Boehm back to Isaac Aronson, now into the hands of Michael Boehm again. He'll accept the screen from Erickson. Now passes over to Christian Ronda. Ronda, the Connecticut native, holding the ball, looking for a shot here. A left-handed wrister goes to the top of the net, but not before a save. And the ball will stick with Michigan, actually. A dive just as it came out of play by Bo Lockwood. And the Wolverines will retain. That's Ryan Cohen with the ball, always the inbounds man, so to speak, here for Michigan. Cohen taking the ball over now. Back at X. A little bit of motion in front of the crease for the Wolverines. Cohen looking for a shot, a dive. And that one will come off the side of the crease. Not necessarily a save for Logan McNaney, the Terrapins goaltender, but he'll take it all the same. Now a pass sent up as the Wolverines get into a defensive ride of their own. Ajax Zapatello, the defenseman with the ball on his stick, sending it over to McNaney. Now finally the Terrapins breaking out onto offense. That's number 7, Eric Spanos, receiving the pass. He'll hold the ball as we'll see a little bit of switching here for the Terrapins. They'll look to get their offensive group out and get set up, seeking a 2-goal lead. That would be tying the biggest lead of the day. It's been a tight matchup thus far here in Ann Arbor, as the Terrapins look to extend a lead on a 1-game losing skid. Not necessarily a skid, so to speak, but nevertheless not where the Terrapins want to be. That's Eric Maliver holding the ball at X now, sending a pass over to his Terrapin counterpart, number 22 in red. That'll be a scrum in the front of the net and a save. Not a save, excuse me, just a turnover recovery by the Wolverines. They attempt to look into a breakout on offense here. That's number 13 in white, sending it over to Aiden Mulholland. Mulholland over to Bo Lockwood. Lockwood holding at X as the Wolverines now start to get a little bit of a switch up here. Mulholland coming on for the Wolverines. Sends a pass over to number 32 in white. That's John Morgan. Morgan now over to the ever-electric Justin Brown. Brown with a twitch and accepting a screen, but it won't go anywhere. Now the Wolverines shuffling the ball across the field. That's number 27 in white receiving the pass, Aiden Mulholland. Mulholland over to Michael Boehm. Boehm holding. Brings it around at X, accepts a screen, looks for a pass, sends it back to Bo Lockwood. Lockwood now with a little bit of a spin move and a turnaround. He'll look for a shot. This defense stiffening for Maryland. A shot just fired wide. Bo Lockwood sends one over to Aiden Mulholland. Mulholland can't hit the net, let alone find the back of it. Thankfully, the Wolverines recover now. Michael Boehm breaking in the ball for Michigan. Boehm comes around looking for an open man. He can't find any. The Terrapins doubling Boehm. He'll send a pass over now to John Morgan. As time will expire, the Wolverines unable to put their eyes on the clock. And an excellent defensive stand there by the Terrapins, withstanding more than 60 seconds of Wolverines pressure. Nevertheless, it sits at 6-5 for a Terrapin lead.
You know, I think one thing that we forgot to mention coming into this game is that in the 13 matchups that Michigan has had against the Terrapins, Maryland has won 10 of those 12 games. And they won 10 straight before Michigan came in last year and won both of those games, giving Michigan and Maryland a matchup record of 10-2, which says a lot about what we're expecting from this game today.
Exactly right. It's a season to remember. 2023 was for the Wolverines, as Urksa brings the ball around for the Terrapins. Now a pass over to number 13 in red. That's Zach Whittier. Whittier sends the ball over to Eric Reliever. Reliever at X. A lot of bodies surrounding him. He'll hold the ball. Maryland ever so patient here on offense as the clock winds down. Now a shot. That one was intercepted by a number of Wolverine sticks. A little bit of a double team there as time expires, and the ball will stick with the Wolverines.
Yeah, Michigan is having a little bit of difficulty winning their faceoffs. You know, they're having a little trouble like getting that initial jump into each play. So I think, you know what, going against a guy, I think Maryland's faceoff, Luke Weirman, has actually just become Maryland's all-time program leader in faceoff. So going against a guy like that is tough, you know, but those moments are necessary in order to win games like this.
Now a bouncing shot. That one will be fired wide. The shot coming off the hands of Isaac Aronson. It is necessary for the Wolverines to capitalize on these faceoffs, as Noelle just mentioned. Of course, Michigan looking to find any advantage with a one-goal deficit right now. That starts at the face-off dot. Without the ability to secure the ball, you put yourself at a major disadvantage. Christian Ronda here looking to make a move, sends it over to Ryan Cohen. Cohen now holding. He'll look to turn, shoot, and that one a nifty save by Logan McNaney right off the stick. And the Wolverines now looking for a little bit of a ball scramble here. Nevertheless, it'll fall back onto the stick of McNaney securely for the Terrapins, and Michigan will have to switch into its defensive ride.
Yeah, we're not seeing Maryland kind of push into that fast break like they usually do. Usually they're really, really pushing to get their guys down the field and beat Michigan.
And now a long pass falls just too far out of the stick for the Terrapins, and Michigan will recover.
You know, it's kind of a little sloppy on the part of Maryland. Wasn't really sure what he was attempting to do, whether it was just pass it downfield and kind of pass up Michigan's defenders, or just kind of a sporadic play.
Bo Lockwood receives a pass from Jack Whitney now. He'll send one over into the midfield to Christian Ronda. Ronda had the ball on his stick for days here for Michigan, not able to capitalize on some of these looks. Isaac Aronson will send one over to Michael Boehm. Boehm, number 5 in white. He looks for a skip, a hop, and a jump down the alley, but now his pass will be just mistimed. It'll land at the feet instead of the stick of Bo Lockwood, and the ball will go back to the Terrapins. Michigan, though, able to set up on defense, get more of their players in. That's number 89 in white, Bo Peterson, coming in to try and be a short stick midfielder. Peterson always so agile on his feet, what makes him such an exceptional defensive midfielder. Nevertheless, the Wolverines need to capitalize on some of these offensive opportunities here.
No, I agree. I think that last play that we saw where Maryland just kind of Hail Married it down to the other side of the field was something that Michigan should have capitalized on. They did get possession back, but it was something that should have been picked up and read early.
Eric Spanos with a mistimed pass to number 10, Braden Urksa, and It sent the Wolverines midfielders scrambling for an opportunity. Nevertheless, they won't collect it. The ball will fall back onto the stick of number 22 in red for the Terrapins. He'll send it back over to Urksa. Urksa now to number 7 in red. Michigan's defense stiffening here with just about 17 seconds left on the shot clock. A mistimed pass intended for Urksa yet again. Nevertheless, it'll be scooped up by the defense of the Wolverines, and they'll break out into a transition offense. The ball finds its way onto the stick of Michael Boehm. Boehm content to hold and allows the Wolverines to get their transition on. That's John Morgan coming in. Boehm with the ball now, looking for number 27 in white, Aiden Mulholland. He'll rip a shot. That one will find the back of the net. And just like that, it's a level game with 6.5 to go here in the third quarter, Noelle.
And the crowd is absolutely electric right now. You know, I don't think I've seen a crowd this full for Michigan lacrosse since, I want to say, last season, you know, when they played Maryland once again. And these environments in these games are once a season or once or twice a season that we see a lot of people coming out to really support this program, especially in a game like Maryland. The Terps are conference best right now. They have 38 wins in the Big Ten since joining in 2015, and that's the standard that Michigan is trying to get to. They're trying to uphold that. You know, the Terrapins won the Big Ten championship in 2022, and then here comes Michigan winning in 2023. So the two are kind of fighting for this position right now. They're both extremely valid programs, and Michigan is almost like the underdog in this program. Maryland has always been a really hot recruiter for strong guys, and for Michigan to come up almost immediately is impressive. So we're going to see how this game plays out with 5 minutes left in this third quarter.
George Stamos sends one over to Zach Whittier here. Of course, Maryland, always a hotbed for recruiting, always has the benefit of proximity when it comes to many elite players wanting to play close to home, wanting to play for an elite program under the supervision of just decades of excellent lacrosse. As a mistimed pass is one-handed and recepted. That was number 55 for the Terrapins, Owen Murphy. Owen Murphy now sends a pass over to Braden Urksa. Urksa accepts the screen, can't do much with it, goes back to X. Being worked on now, but a shot and a score after a turnaround. That's Braden Urksa. He was having some nifty defense courtesy of number 18 in white for the Wolverines. Nevertheless, defense by Carson Billig not enough for the electric offense of Braden Urksa, and it's a 7-6 Maryland lead.
Yeah, we see kind of what we've been reiterating in the first, or to reiterate what we were saying in the first half of this game. Maryland just comes in and answers Michigan immediately. They are not willing to continue to be in the deficit behind Michigan, and I think it's kind of telling for Urksa, who comes in and kind of immediately sets up a play for his men for a beautiful execution on Maryland's part.
An excellent little spin move there by Urksa is all the difference. A one-goal lead may not feel like much, especially in an electric game such as lacrosse. Nevertheless, it's been a blow-for-blow, punch-for-punch defensive battle here in Ann Arbor this afternoon. And with 5.5 minutes left to go in this third quarter, you never know when that goal is going to come next. Of course, only 2 goals thus far in the third quarter, uncharacteristic for 2 electric offenses. Nevertheless, they're stymieing defenses, winning the day. A little reminiscent of Michigan's matchup with Maryland earlier this season in the football realm. Of course, Michigan built out a lead early in College Park before having a blow-for-blow battle there.
Yeah, going back a little bit about the maker of that goal, Brendan Urksa. He's actually, just a little bit about him, he actually led the Terps in points last season and finished seconds in goals and assists. He's only a sophomore for this team, but he's been a really crucial part for their offense. And actually, fun fact, he went to IMG Academy in Florida, which is actually neighbors to my hometown. So he's from the same range. So coming from down south all the way to Maryland and then over in Ann Arbor is nice to see.
Of course, Florida natives coming up north, always welcome here at Michigan. Maybe a little bit of a temperature change. Nevertheless, it doesn't seem to bother the Terrapins thus far. 7-6 victory I myself am from New Jersey, not necessarily from Maryland, but I was talking a little bit before this game, Noelle, and it does, the game of lacrosse does lend itself to some of those warmer climates, of course. Nevertheless, a testament to kind of the grit and mentality of teams such as the University of Michigan and their counterparts. I like to think of the University of Denver as well, a team that maybe can find themselves in some cold Marches, cold Aprils, nevertheless content to play lacrosse and battle here, as a win by Justin Wheatfield will set the Wolverines up. Michael Boehm holding the ball. He's got an open Bo Peterson at the top of the key. Now Peterson with the ball on his stick. He'll find a shot, fires, and scores! Bo Peterson, initially a little bit scared, sitting back in transition, looking for a potential pass. Michael Boehm gets double-teamed. Peterson says, I'm open. And we'll find ourselves in a 7-7 game, just under 5 minutes to go. Noelle, this is the Michigan we've been looking to see, one that gets punched in the mouth and knows how to respond quickly.
And I think that response has come from taking those beatings early in the season before Big Ten matchup, before these games are so pivotal for the championship. You know, they got their teeth kicked in almost immediately by Notre Dame, who is number 2 in the country, but with a 19-9 loss. So having Michigan come in and not accepting the fact that a potential third loss is in the running, I think is something that is keeping them at their highest level of performance today.
Exactly right. Those losses fresh in the mind for the Wolverines. A face-off violation here will lead to the Terrapin ball. That's Eric Kohler with the ball on a stick, waiting for a little bit of a change. He'll send it over now to number 38 in red. And the Terrapins will look for an answer of their own. That's Braden Erksa. How many times have we called his name? The ever-electric attackman. He'll hold the ball on the far side of the field. Now he'll cut inside, but feels the pressure of the Wolverines. Bo Peterson sends his man down off the screen.
Michigan's defense is definitely keeping the fans on edge right now, wondering if they'll stop an answer from Maryland's part today.
That's Ryan Siracusa with the ball on his stick now on the near side. He looks to have a little bit of a pick and roll action. Nevertheless, he'll send it back down. That's number 4 in red, Eric Maliver. Maliver, he'll get a big check by Bo Peterson. A flag will fly, and some negative ovation coming from this side of the fans. Noelle.
You know, I'm no lacrosse expert, but that looked like it hurt. He got absolutely checked, and stick went flying, ball went flying, if y'all could see that. On the broadcast today, I think it's questionable, but you know the fans for Michigan today are just a little bit biased for that play at the moment.
Bias indeed, says some boo birds rained down on the referees. That was Jack Whitney delivering what looked like to be initially a hit that packed a punch, but it ends up being a little too much of a punch for the referees today. And now a 30-second man-up opportunity. The penalty being credited on number 89 in white, Bo Peterson. Nevertheless, it'll be a man-up opportunity for the Terrapins all the same. Michigan attempting to clog the middle of the lane here with a zone defense, as Erksa will cycle it around. Now back at X, the ball will be fired to the top of the key. A shot just wide. That shot coming off the stick of number 55 in red. That's Owen Murphy. We've called his name a number of times tonight. The ball will stick with the Terrapins.
You know, I'm excited to see how their defense does. I think they're going to continue to kind of attack this to keep Maryland from making that initial goal that was actually just saved at the moment by their goalie Taylor.
A save indeed. Hard to underestimate how important that was. That was number 45 in red, Daniel Kelly, with a one-on-one situation, completely unguarded, just him and Taylor. Taylor comes up big with that stop. 7-7 we stand as time expires on the man-up opportunity. Now the Wolverines back on offense. Number 27, Aiden Mulholland, will hold the ball. He'll look for a shot. He'll rip one and find the back of the net. The bottom left is the key for Aiden Mulholland, and Michigan recaptures the lead for the first time since the second quarter with 2 minutes and 47 seconds to go in this third quarter. It's 8-7 Michigan.
That was an amazing answer. You know, Michigan has definitely they've kind of held true to what they know. They've held true to keeping the patience that they need in order to continue. They figured out what works, and I think Connery has really drilled into the minds of these men that sporadic play is never going to work regardless of how much you want it to. And we saw the patience that Michigan had, the patience that they held, the way that they played together. They were using each other. They were using not just relying on one guy to make a score, and I think it has definitely played out for the better.
Jackie Weller, the Wolverines' second-string Fogo, will draw an face-off violation, and now the Wolverines will get set to hold the ball. Mikey Boehm with the ball on his stick. He'll accept a pass, or send a pass, I should say, down at X to Bo Peterson, or Bo Lockwood, excuse me. A lot of Bo's on this Michigan team here. One spelled B-O, the other B-A-E-U, or B-E-A-U. It'll get you tripped up if you're trying to call a game. Ryan Cohen will dash down the lane. He'll send one back at X to Aiden Mulholland. Mulholland will keep the ball on his stick and send it over back up to the top of the key. That was Michael Boehm. Mikey Boehm sends one back down to Mulholland. Mulholland will hold the ball looking for anything here. He'll send one over to X to Bo Lockwood. Now to Ryan Cohen. He'll take a bouncing shot. That one will be fired just wide, and it'll be a foot race, and it'll stick with the Wolverines after the diving attempt by none other than number 44, Justin Tiernan.
Yeah, we saw a great effort from Ryan Cohen there at the moment. He was double-teamed and really tried to get that bounce strike in there, but unfortunately didn't end up going through, but Michigan was able to gain possession, which is a positive.
Bo Lockwood finds an open man in Justin Tiernan. A shot will be fired, but it'll be just too high. The referees will make a call, and it'll stick with the Maryland Terrapins. Now with a minute and a half to go in this third quarter here, Michigan holding on to almost an airtight 8-7 lead with 68 seconds left on the shot clock. Michigan will have another opportunity to answer, that's for sure. But right now, the Terrapins getting an open offensive look after some transition struggles. A big check delivered there, though, by number 3, Rowan Clay. But the ball will sail out of bounds after the check, and it'll stick with Braden Erksa. He'll take the ball in for the Terrapins as they look to get something going here in offensive response. And it'll ring off the post after a shot by number 25 in red. Recovered now by Syracuse of the Terrapins. Number 38 in red, Syracuse. We've called his name multiple times. He'll look to dart down the alley, looking for an open man. Michigan's zone defense tightening a little bit here. Erksa receives a check from Whitney. Now a shot sent over, and a bouncing ball won't go. That was number 4, Eric Maliver, who found himself open in the cross crease, but nevertheless couldn't make anything happen. It's a defensive battle here for the Wolverines as there's a scramble on the near side for a loose ball. And with 50 seconds left after that missed shot that rang off the post by Maliver, we'll have 13 to go. The Wolverines looking to keep the score not level, I should say. The Terrapin shot is saved by Hunter Taylor, and he'll launch one deep into the sky with just a few seconds ticking down on the clock. And a bit of a late check delivered there.
John, that was an absolutely beautiful, beautiful defensive play by Michigan. They did not let off the gas at any point. Maryland had 3 shot attempts, each of which were within a foot or two of actually going inside of the net, and that was absolutely impressive for making sure that those guys were locked down. And we almost see Maryland scrambling a little bit like we saw Michigan scrambling when they initially lost their lead.
I completely agree, Noelle. It seemed as though Maryland had at least 3 golden scoring opportunities capped off by a Braden Erksa shot, one-on-one completely alone in front of Hunter Taylor. Nevertheless, it rings off the post. The Terrapins are going to wish they had that one back. Now it's a 2-minute break heading into the fourth quarter. Of course, the Terrapins will try to compose themselves after what has been a bit of a rocky third period for them. The Wolverines, on the other end, have to be feeling pretty good about themselves. Not only did they kill off a man-up opportunity, they retook the lead in their own right, up 8-7 here.
Do you think that last play was luck more than pure effort and drive from the defense?
You know, I think sometimes, Brandon Arado, head coach of the Michigan hockey team, which plays a game of its own tonight here, a big Big Ten matchup, you can say, for them, he always said that you have to make your own luck sometimes. And when you have a defensive stand like that the Wolverines did, they're rushing, they're pushing the pace, they're getting the Maryland Terrapins onto the back foot, keeping them on their own toes. Sometimes you got to make your own luck. Sometimes those defensive efforts, yes, maybe they lead to an open shot or two, but if the other offense isn't settled, they're going to make mistakes of their own. And if they make their own mistakes, just go ahead and let them.
No, I agree. I mean, I think Michigan has to do what Maryland has been doing this entire game and really capitalize on the weaknesses and on the faults that Maryland has really been showing in this last period. You know, it's almost as if the roles have shifted a little bit. Maryland is becoming more scrappy, more careless, and Michigan has really locked down and locked in to get the lead back. And I think that's exactly what we've needed to see. The trajectory of this game is almost the same as it has been this entire time. And as we were discussing before halftime, whoever locks in and whoever capitalizes on the strengths and really gives that initial push is going to be the winner of the game, considering that these two teams are at such an equal standing in, I think, everyone's eyes at the moment.
And you know, Noelle, part of what we talked about earlier today, as it'll be Willer for the Wolverines stepping into the faceoff dot as opposed to Wheatfield, part of what we talked about has been Maryland's ability to kind of hang into games. They let bad teams hang around, but then they hang around the good teams nevertheless themselves, as Weller loses the faceoff, and it'll be the control of the Terrapins. Michigan needs to have that final push, as you said, if they want to see a win through. It's not enough to just take a one-goal lead. You have to kind of be that boa constrictor that can slowly but surely take down its enemies. You have to be kind of that cool, calm, collected team, because these games can change in an instant. Michigan knows it. They've played it. The Terrapins themselves have done it. So if the Wolverines want to come out on top, they're going to have to be calm. They're going to have to step on the gas when necessary, but know when to make the right decision.
No, and I agree. There's been a complete shift in energy for the men on this team today. Michigan has really kind of followed the fundamentals that they know, and has kind of shown that. You know, like we said before, we knew that this game wasn't going to be high scoring, you know, coming at the start of the initial face-off. We knew that this wasn't going to be a 20-20 this wasn't going to be a 19 score like it was for the shots against Notre Dame. So I think that, like we mentioned right at the beginning of our broadcast today, that the slow and steady approach is going to be the most effective for this team. And I think it has taken all season for them to actually figure that out, which is very important coming against a team like Maryland today.
Figuring it out just at the right time, too, for the Wolverines as they open up Big Ten play. Spanos will send the ball around down to number 4, Eric Maliver at X. As the Terrapins have set up on offense here, a bouncing shot skipped just wide, and the Terrapins will keep it. 25 seconds left on this shot clock here, as that one just misses the net. Hunter Taylor laying out for some of these shots early and often here. Spanos will take the ball in. He'll attempt to go around at X. Looks for a spin move, not before he's stripped. A little bit of a yard sale by Jack Whitney. The stick falls onto the ground, and Spanos will have to pick it up with a little bit of humility, as the Wolverines now have a rush of their own in the offensive zone. Bo Lockwood will hold as the Wolverines look to get Ryan Cohen onto their side of the field. Cohen motioning for a man to come off as Michigan continues to hold the ball. That's number 18, Carson Billig, with the ball on his stick. Or excuse me, that's Christian Ronda. A little bit of a windy day here. Hard to see some of the numbers at times. Of course, Michigan in classic lacrosse fashion, not necessarily sporting backplate names, as the ball goes to the top of the key at Ryan Cohen. Cohen darting down the near side alley. Sends it back over to Mikey Boehm. He's at the top of the key. He'll send one over to number 44, Justin Tiernan. Tiernan back to Boehm. Now to Cohen, to Boehm again. He'll accept a screen from Cohen. And with 18 seconds left, Cohen will have to make a move. Looking down to the near side. Now back to Cohen. Cohen with a spin move. Now a pull around. Just getting mogged by the Maryland defense. Cohen attempts to send a pass. It'll go right into the hands of the Maryland Terrapin defender. He'll hold it, send it over to an open man. That was Braden Erksa. He can't collect the pass. And now a golden opportunity turns to dust as the Wolverines can push onto offense. Hunter Taylor sends one over to number 22 in white. That's Isaac Aronson. Michigan content to hold and get their offensive unit on, as Erickson will do a fake ball trick to Michael Boehm. Always good to keep the Terrapins on their toes, I guess. Aronson will send it over to Aiden Mulholland. Mulholland drives down now at X. From the near side now to X. Bo Lockwood will replace him. The ball sent over the top of the key, though. To number 19, Christian Ronda. Ronda back to Mulholland. Now to Boehm. Boehm looking for something, receives a big check from a Terrapin defender, can still hold on nevertheless. 26 seconds to go on the shot clock here. Boehm with an open look. He'll send it down to Bo Lockwood at X. Lockwood finds an open man for a shot and a score. Justin Tiernan coming up big in the late game here with 11 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and it's 9-7 Michigan.
Wow, what an absolutely beautiful turn of events for Michigan today. It has been a very, very, very difficult time for Michigan's offense. You know, they are getting battered and bruised by Maryland. We just had 2 or 3 guys on Michigan get absolutely checked with no penalty from called from the refs. So it's fun to see the refs allowing this game to play to its really full potential, while seeing Michigan capitalize and really push forward as they take the lead now with they strengthen the lead 9-7.
Wheatfield digs out in the face-off, and now a big check delivered by number 9 in white. That was Cathal Roberts, but not before the Terrapins can recover, and a shot and a score. A little bit of a bang-bang play there. A.J. Larkin, the long stick defender, with a goal, and Maryland cuts it to 1 again, 9-8. So a little bit of an awkward face-off there. Justin Wheatfield can't control it. The ball recovered by long stick defenseman, sent over to A.J. Larkin. And just like that again, Maryland responds. You know, Noelle, I was going to ask you about just on that Michigan goal there. It seemed as though they had caught Maryland's defense lacking. Kind of asleep at the wheel, allowed that open shot to find the back of the net. But just like that, the Terrapins defense says, oh, no, we'll show you our own.
But I think it goes back to what we've been saying since the beginning of this broadcast and pretty much throughout the entire season. You know, they get on a bolster, they get excited, they get to a point where it's like, oh, we're up head 2, we can let off the gas now. And what does Maryland do? We've been talking about this. Maryland will always come back and attempt, if not always respond to the shot that was made. And it was actually it took a lot of effort for Michigan's defense to keep them from getting back for that to answer that 7th goal that they had. So, and what did Maryland do? They came right back and they put the deficit down to 1 again. So Michigan has to recognize those moments, and that is something that going into Johns Hopkins next week, I think they will be able to really, if they fix that, they will be able to really stand out against a team like Johns Hopkins.
A little bit of a fake there by Justin Tiernan, pretending to slow up, cuts inside, but the shot is saved by Logan McNaney. Of course, Michigan looking forward to Johns Hopkins next weekend, a little bit of a back-to-back Maryland battle. Nevertheless, they've still got one against the Terrapins here to boot. As the Terrapins look to set up on offense, that's number 24 in red. Now sends it over to Urksa. Urksa with the ball on his stick, the offensive distributor here for the Terrapins. Accepts a screen there from Colin Sharkey. Takes another, doubles back, and now sends it over to 45. Daniel Kelly keeping the ball on his stick here at the top of the key, getting pressured by Michigan's defense. As Elijah Stobach will put the ball in his stick, the short stick defensive midfielder. He'll send it over to number 55 in red. Now back over to Daniel Kelly. Sends it to Stobach. Now back to Kelly. At the top of the key here, Kelly will look back down, sends it to Urksa, who has a little bit of a slip here on the turf, but he'll find an open shot, whips it high up over the glove, or glove, a little too much hockey calling, up over the stick of Hunter Taylor. The ball will stick with the Terrapins. That'll be Eric Maliver with 6 seconds left. The shot finds the back of the net. 6 seconds to go where Michigan's defense looked to tighten. It couldn't find that. Daniel Maltz, the dangerous attackman, sends a shot low and under the knees of Hunter Taylor, and it's a 9-9 game.
wow, it just shows that when Maryland finds what's been causing a little bit of discrepancy between their guys, they can fix it immediately. And as soon as they fix it, they're back on the gas. They're back on getting they're standing like they usually are. I mean, this team can have faults at some point, but then will always come back and will never get caught at a point to where they are just out of the game. And I think it just shows with 8 minutes left, they're at 9-9. These teams are really, really facing for something important today.
Important, of course, a great term to use. It's hard to understate how much a 1-0 start would mean for either of these teams. A ranked win to boot. 1-0 in Big Ten play, always helpful. Michigan as well as Maryland looking to be able to host eventually as this semester comes to a close for both universities. Hosting a Big Ten tournament game always means more to be able to do it in front of the home crowd, as Ryan Cohen will take the ball himself, brings it over. Excuse me, that's Christian Ronda. Should have put on my better glasses for the day, I guess. As he'll send a ball at X to Bo Lockwood. Lockwood will send it up to the top of the key to Michael Boehm. Boehm with a nifty little move. He'll try to find a shot. Looks for an open man and content to set up at X. Michael Boehm darting to the near side. Looks for an open man down the middle. That was Justin Tiernan looking for a little bit of hat trick magic in the center there for Tiernan as Tiernan starts to mug Logan McNaney, but not before McNaney can escape the pressure, and the Wolverines have to set up on their defensive ride.
Yeah, we saw Michigan try to almost collapse in their offense and really crash the middle in order to get that shot in to get the lead back, but unfortunately it didn't happen, causing a turnover.
It's been a back and forth game. Nevertheless, 2 straight goals here for the Terrapins. Before that, 3 straight for the Wolverines. Feeling like a little bit of basketball, a game of runs as Maryland sets up on offense. That's Syracuse. He'll try to find an open man for a shot and a score. Syracuse from at X sends one over to number 37 in red. That's Daniel Maltz, the guy with the hot hand, at least this quarter. And a diving shot by Maltz will find the back of the net. And it's 10-9. Maryland has their first lead in just a couple of minutes. It's been a heavyweight matchup for sure, Noelle.
It almost seemed like Michigan got kind of lost in their defense there for a second. You know, they were playing man, but somebody did not catch and play help defense, which I think is extremely important when you have a game to this caliber. You have to make sure that you are helping your teammates out, because this is not a one-man game. You can't do that, especially for the game of lacrosse. Like, you have your defense, your offense, and your midfield. You have to make sure that you are playing your parts, and when you fill in or you're really playing the position that you're at, you have to do it to the best of your ability, and not playing man defense is going to cause issues, like we just saw with Maryland cutting into the middle and shooting for the lead once again. You know, they were down by 2, and Maryland scored 3 in the last 3 minutes, putting them back in the lead. Like, that is, especially for a team like Maryland, you cannot be missing your post.
Justin Wheatfield with a clean win. Michigan running out of opportunities to miss their post as a shot fired just high off the tipped stick. That was Christian Ronda attempting one. Wheatfield had a clean win, something he's not really been privy to thus far throughout today. Michigan looking to capitalize off of that and now find an evening score of their own. As Bo Lockwood takes it in, sends it over to Ryan Cohen. Cohen now a shot, a bounce pass, and that's a score. Isaac Aronson off the pass from Ryan Cohen gets up close and personal with goaltender Logan McNaney and sends one 5-hole. And just like that, it's 10-10 yet again.
Michigan's offense is doing everything that they need to in order to get points on the board. We talked before earlier in this broadcast, John, on how we were wondering if this was going to be a shootout or whether it was going to be more of a slow-paced, low-scoring game. And, you know, it started out as a very low-scoring game. They had no more than 12 shots starting the second period, but then now we see that both teams are upwards of 30 shot attempts. So it's definitely become a little bit of shift in the dynamic and the shift of the speed of this game. But Michigan's offense is doing what they need to. They're staying on their game. They're being composed. They're keeping the stride that they've had all game. But it's just a matter of if the defense can keep up with them. Michigan has really deciphered Maryland's defense to where they can find the gaps and where they can capitalize on those weaknesses. But when you overlook on Michigan's defense, they're having difficulty shutting down the offense. Maryland is attacking several times within the time allotted for their shot clock, and Michigan they're getting gassed, and it's hard for them to keep up. But it's almost countered with Michigan's offense doing so well, so it's just a matter of their defense really putting in that last push, putting in that last effort in order to get there.
Yeah, Noelle, you touched upon it briefly, but it's kind of funny how this game has gone. It's been a little bit of everything, a defensive battle, now turned into a shootout, a will they, won't they, who can come out on top. It's really, the allegory to me just feels like a boxing match. Feels like, I'm not a big UFC guy, but almost like a big UFC sort of fight where it's like you never know if the next hit is going to be the knockout blow or if it's going to have a punch returned just in time.
No, I agree, and that's what I think makes lacrosse such an exciting and special game, and that we're seeing their 15th year in this season, and especially with the caliber of this program now. It's one of the best spring sports to watch because the excitement, you never know what's going to happen. Especially with this team, like we've seen them go back and forth all season, but when they do lock in, it's amazing the way that they really, really keep their stride. I mean, last season we saw them lose to Penn State coming and shooting 6 straight goals, making them lose, but then here we are with a Big Ten title. So the way that this team kind of shifts is so impactful and so interesting.
Certainly. The season's still not over, of course, if a loss transpires here for the Wolverines, as we see a battle at midfield, almost 10 combined total players. Michael Boehm comes out of it with the ball, but it was a scramble at midfield off the face-off, and the Wolverines will hold the ball. That's Bo Peterson kind of shushing the crowd, putting his hand down as if to say, hey, let's calm it down, let's slow it down. Peterson will come off and put himself onto the bench, but not before the ball falls onto the stick of Ryan Cohen. Cohen looking to make an impact. He'll dart down the alley and is accidentally stripped by the defenseman. The Terrapins defense standing up right on time when it needs to, as the Wolverines will switch into their defensive ride. A little bit of sad news here for our Wolverine faithful. The Michigan Wolverines women's basketball team out in Los Angeles falling to the Kansas Jayhawks in overtime, 81-72. The Wolverines did hold a lead with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter there in Los Angeles, but are now eliminated from the NCAA tournament. Nevertheless, still a game here to be played in Ann Arbor with about 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter of our own. Michigan, Maryland, the Terrapins, the Wolverines knotted at 10-10 with 45 seconds here left on the shot clock. It's number 7, Eric Spanos, with the ball on his stick, looking to make an impact. Now at X, Spanos looking for an open man in the midfield. He'll find one, a shot saved. That shot coming from Ryan Syracuse. Hunter Taylor able to stick his leg out and make the save. Now the ball back onto the stick of Syracuse. He'll send it over to Spanos. Spanos looking to dart inside, can't find anything. Now sends a pass down to an open man in the side. And that's a shot, a score, and a Terrapin lead. Syracuse finding the ball on his stick yet again. And now Michigan needs to muster a response here with 3 minutes and 47 seconds to go.
You wonder if Kevin Connery is going to call a timeout anytime soon. Because it seems like whenever they come off the timeout, they tighten the reins and things get done. So Michigan has 3 minutes and 45 seconds left to convert this last shot effort into a goal to potentially go into overtime. They have gone, and we know Maryland is very, very big on their overtime.
Wheatfield looks to do it himself off the faceoff. A shot goes just over the top of the net. It'll be recovered by Bo Lockwood. Of course, Michigan definitely might want to consider using that timeout when given the opportunity. Kevin Connery thus far, though, content to sit and see if his offense can work and slow down what's kind of been a bleeding defense as of late in this second half. Of course, Michigan held Maryland to only 1 goal in the first quarter. Now it feels like a far cry from that as Michael Boehm will find an open shot. He'll rip it just high.
Yeah, you kind of get worried if Michigan is playing their usual playlist in terms of coming into the offense, kind of scrambling, trying to get that last shot attempt and not really finding anything plausible to really convert. We don't want them to scramble. We want them to be composed, and because that's what works for them.
Aiden Mulholland now at X. Thankfully, he was the man with a plan, standing right at X when the shot was missed by Michael Boehm. Now the ball back onto the stick of Boehm at the top of the key. A turnaround shot fired just wide by Justin Tiernan off the pass from Boehm. The ball will stick with the Wolverines. 30 seconds to go on the shot clock. Just a time reminder here, about 2 minutes and 50 seconds left for Michigan as they look to equalize down 1. Ryan Cohen will accept the screen. Looks to the center of the field, can't find anything. Cohen now still holding it, finds an open man, Tiernan. Tiernan, the hot hand, a left corner shot fired, nylon. A tie game for Michigan. Just like that, it's 11-11.
And just like that, Michigan's offense continues to be a powerhouse of this game. They have put in the necessary effort and the pressure for Maryland's defense to continue to be part of this game and not fall weary when it comes to the deficit. We'll see if Michigan's defense can do the same as this transitions over to Maryland's possession. But you have 2 minutes and 30 seconds left on the clock. So
a Maryland possession squandered away. Justin Wheatfield assisting in causing a face-off violation. Now Bo Peterson will take it himself, the short stick defensive midfielder. Always dangerous to make an impact as the ball falls onto the stick of the Wolverines off that violation. Instrumental here for Michigan as they look to make a change. Ryan Cohen will come on. Aiden Mulholland will come on. Offensive-minded attackmen and midfielders here for Michigan. Michael Boehm holding the ball at center field. Now bringing it up towards the near side as Michigan looks to get something set up here. Maybe yet another opportunity for Michigan to call a timeout in this tie game, as you mentioned earlier, Noelle. As we cross the 2-minute mark here, Michigan with 40 seconds left on the shot clock. Michael Boehm will keep it off a spin move. Sends it over to Bo Lockwood. Lockwood to Ryan Cohen. Cohen assessing the situation. He'll have John Morgan with a screen. He finds an open hand. Now a pass sent over to Justin Tiernan. A check. A foul wanted by the Michigan faithful. And a foul received. The ball will stick with the Wolverines after a late check. And now if you look at Kevin Connery, Noelle, he's jumping up and down, signaling for the timeout.
I guess there's a reason why he is head coach for this team. He knows the moments that are necessary to slow down and regroup, and I think he chose the most beautiful moment that he could. You know, the energy is loud, and one thing about this team is that they use energy, but for the better or for worse. And I think taking this timeout is going to really solidify that it's going to be for the better because they have the heat at the moment. They have this entire crowd here for them. On their senior night, they're tied senior night with 1 minute and 30 seconds left on the board, knowing that Maryland is the king of converting turnovers into, turning overtime into wins. So this is the moment for them to really show that they are a top contending team.
And it's going to be a big timeout, Noelle. You know, you mentioned it yourself, but I almost feel like I have to compound that statement with one of my own. It's hard to understate what this means here. About 1 minute and 30 to go. As we've discussed, clock has been winding down. Certainly enough time for Michigan to make a move with 60 seconds left on the shot clock. But some of the elder statesmen of this team will recall kind of what it was like to not have the energy in the building. You know, a sold-out crowd here today for senior night for the Big Ten championship honoring. But there was a time here 2 years ago, Noelle, I remember, where there were not many fans in the stands coming out for a 35-degree day. Still a huddle here, a bit of an extended timeout almost, it seems.
You know, take the time that you need to get this, to get these next couple, not even couple, to get this next minute and a half really solidified in your game plan.
34 shots to 31. Michigan does lead in shots. The score is not at all the same, though. As breaking out of the huddle Michigan looks to capitalize on its potential offensive opportunity. Your Wolverines on the offensive end here with the ball. That's Justin Tiernan, Michael Boehm, number 2 in white, Bo Lockwood, Ryan Cohen, Aiden Mulholland, and then John Morgan, number 32 in white. They'll look to net potentially a game-winning goal here with the clock winding down on this frigid Ann Arbor afternoon. 1 minute and 37 seconds to go, 60 seconds on the shot clock. Ryan Cohen will inbound the ball, and we'll see what the Wolverines can do. Cohen sticks at X, a spin move, an open man, a turnaround, a shot, a huge save by Logan McNaney. And now the Wolverines scrambling for the ball here, a loose ball in the offensive zone. It'll stick with the Terrapins, but not after a turnover and a wide open lane by Justin Tiernan. A dive, a shot, and a score. But a flag flies. The hands are up, and it's a good goal.
I don't think words can describe the monumental event that we just witnessed for this team. I am at a loss of words. It has been 20 seconds since we had our discussion and our analysis on what this was going to look like after Kevin Connery's timeout. And just like that, it was almost as if Michigan was not going to let Maryland out of their zone without that ball. They were going to take every ounce of energy that they had to make sure that it stayed within their possession. And just like that, caused several turnovers, balls, ground balls all over the place. And Michigan was able to convert. And that is the difference between these two high-caliber teams, but Michigan pushing toward the finish line.
You know, Noelle, and it's something that we've seen out of the Wolverines over the last number of years, this maturity, this poise, the ability to not only secure these leads late in the game, but keep them. Of course, that goal, not necessarily probably how Kevin Connery drew it up. It was a missed shot, then a scramble. Almost every single Wolverine probably had their stick on the ball at some point before it being knocked out. Nevertheless, it falls into the open hands in the open lane of Justin Tiernan, who dove for the shot. It appeared as though the shot would have been called off due to a man being in the crease. Nevertheless, Tiernan's diving shot also aided by a shove by 2 Maryland defenders. And nevertheless, the hands were raised. It was a good goal. And the referees fall on the side of the Wolverines with this one. It's a 12-11 lead.
But this is just a game of who wants it more. Because these teams, like I've been recalling this entire game, are such on equal calibers. Right now, Michigan is only 36 shots. Maryland is at 31. On goal shots is 23-19. Saves 11-18. And, you know, their face-offs are relatively the same, too. You know, they're at 19 and 16 face-offs. So it's, 19 and 16 face-offs. So they are extremely equal caliber teams to where it's whoever wants it bad. And tonight's Michigan senior night. They got a full crowd. They got their first Big Ten championship title flag that they just put up. This is the game that they want to win. And Maryland is coming in as whoever one thinks is going to win this game. So Michigan is just defying all odds in this right now.
And now a face-off win by Justin Wheatfield, called off due to a violation. He'll put up his hands in confusion. Michigan almost securing a near win there, potentially. Nevertheless, Maryland will have a chance to answer as the Terrapins take a timeout, and they'll have to draw up a play of their own to find the equalizer.
With 59 seconds left, I mean, we saw Michigan do it in less than 30. So with the caliber of these two teams, it's hard to deny that Maryland will draw up something that will execute within the next minute, you know. I mean, that possession with the face-off, we've been talking about it all game. But Weirman is just one that is – it's hard to go against Luke Weirman, who is the all-time leading program face-off leader for Maryland. You know, he is a powerhouse when it comes to face-off. So we'll just have to see if Michigan's defense will be able to uphold the standard that their offense has set.
Weirman, of course, an elder statesman of this Maryland team, was there in 2020. Of course, that season was not able to come to fruition, mostly due to the COVID year. Although he's used his years of eligibility well, has played in a number of games throughout his career. 18 in 2022, 16 in 2023, 52, now 53 across his entire career. Didn't necessarily secure the face-off win there, but nevertheless did what he had to do and assured a Terrapin possession. As the Terrapins come out of the timeout, looking to net this equalizer. 59 seconds left on the game clock, 70 on the shot clock. Maryland can hold for whatever shot they please. Michigan hoping for a little bit of disruption here. Let's see if Hunter Taylor has one final save left in his bones. The ball will be inbounded. That's Braden Urksa at center field. He looks for something, sends it over to 22 in red. That's Jack Koras. Koras now to number 55 in red. He's looking back to Urksa. Urksa receiving the ball. Spanos at X. Urksa turning around, looking for a shot, neglects to take it. 55 in red, fires, and a save by Hunter Taylor. That one might be the game as the Wolverines look to secure a breakout and potentially a one-goal victory. Taylor will send the ball over to Bo Peterson, who can retain it. Peterson to Tiernan. Tiernan holding 22 seconds left on the game clock. He's being mugged by three separate Terrapins. Tiernan with the ball on his stick still, shoots one, finds the back of the net, and that one will be the difference maker all the same. 13-11, Justin Tiernan, have a day. But
no,
not before a timeout is called.
It doesn't seem like that one was called eligible for Michigan there, even though it would have been very, very exciting to see Michigan take the lead even further with 14 seconds left on the clock. This is probably the most anxious 14 seconds that Michigan can have in this end of this game. You know, I mean, I think some of the pressure's off. Michigan has possession, but I'm sure it's both very exciting and also a breath of fresh air for this team. You know, they're coming off 2 losses, and that takes a toll on you. But it also provides the momentum that you need to come in and beat this high-caliber team.
Maryland, a top 10 team here, coming into Ann Arbor on the road. With 15 seconds left, the Wolverines are with the ability to close out this game. Justin Tiernan, of course, has scored at will today. 5 goals on the day for Justin Tiernan. He's been the offensive fire starter here for the Wolverines. He's been an executor all throughout his career, of course, as we mentioned in the pregame, Noelle. Michael Boehm, a guy who gets a lot of attention, but Justin Tiernan deserves his flowers too, as the Wolverines come out of the timeout, walk back to their sideline. Michael Boehm with the ball on his stick, and he'll look to play keep away for 15 seconds. Michael Boehm holding it, bringing it over to the near side corner. He'll be swatted at by Logan McNeely. Michael Boehm now content to hold. 5 seconds left on the clock. He'll send the ball over to Ryan Cohen. He'll secure it. 2 seconds to go. That one will be a win, and the Wolverines rush the field, embrace Hunter Taylor, and find themselves on the benefit of an upset victory here in Ann Arbor. 12-11, Michigan with the win.
What a beautiful day to be a Michigan Wolverine. It has taken this stadium, taken this program by storm, that they have beat this record team of Maryland 12-11. Maryland is known to go into overtime and to absolutely crush their opponents in overtime. And for Michigan to not allow them to have that opportunity to do that speaks volumes for this team. And this actually, John, is one of the points in the season last year that we saw Michigan kind of take a turn and kind of develop together as a team and find the stride that they were lacking. And I think it's with a win like this, the first win of the Big Ten face-offs for the season. You know, Big Ten play is extremely important when trying to figure out home field advantage for playoffs is going to be extremely important for this team. And I think they really secured that they are a program that is really in the running to put another number on that board. number on that flag.
Step one to that 2024 number starts with a win over Maryland. It took 10 contests, 11 if you count the win, before the Wolverines were able to find themselves as the victors in battles in the men's lacrosse world against the University of Maryland. Now, though, they can pat themselves on the back. 3 straight victories over the Terrapins for the Wolverines. This one coming in grandiose fashion. A 12-11 win for Michigan. Noelle, your final thoughts on the game?
Well, we saw a lot of back and forth between these two teams. We kind of anticipated a low-scoring game, but against all thought, it ended up being 12-11, Michigan taking the win against the Terrapins. We saw a little bit of inconsistency at the beginning from Michigan. You know, they came in the first quarter, scored 2 points, and then lost the lead. We're trailing by about 2 at the beginning of the second period, or throughout the second period, and then going into the third, past halftime, they were down 1 at 5-6 with the Terrapins in the lead. But we saw that this quarter it was almost a shootout. The difference between first and second half, they were an absolute. I don't have words for what I feel for this team right now. They were absolutely amazing, and it's almost like the dynamics between the two teams shifted a little bit. You know, Maryland kind of shifted over to the frustration that Michigan was having in the first quarter, and Michigan saw that. Michigan read the frustration on their faces. Kevin Connery took what he knew about this kind of team that comes in that has the elite status of an East Coast team and use that to their advantage to really secure this win that is extremely important when coming into Big Ten play.
Always a program helping win when you beat the Maryland Terrapins, even more so when you prove the maturity of what is yet a young team in Division I lacrosse like the Michigan Wolverines. A big win for Kevin Connery and co. The number 20th ranked Wolverines upsetting the number 8 Maryland Terrapins in Ann Arbor on this senior night, on this Big Ten Championship honoree night. For WCBN Sports, this has been Noelle Bencie. I'm John Tandora. Thank you for tuning in and listening with us tonight. A win for Michigan is a win for all. Thank you as always, and go blue.
Go blue.